Hello everybody, my name's Mike Gibson and this is the program Capital Ideas Life. In the Russian capital there is a huge number of attractions that can be visited. The top 10 without doubt includes VDNKh, the exhibition of achievements of the national economy. What is this place? What is its history? And what can we discover here? Today we'll tell you all about it in our program.
On the program today, the history of the Exhibition of Economic Achievements, or VDNKh. We'll talk about its history, its creation, and the challenges after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the modernization of VDNKh, and its transformation into a multifunctional area with parks, museums, and modern infrastructure.
This year, VDNKh celebrates its 82nd anniversary. It is one of the 50 largest exhibition centres in the world. You can learn about the history of the exhibition, watch unique film footage, and see artifacts from the past in the Museum of VDNKh. Pavel, hello. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is such a beautiful place. Could you tell us how VDNKh came to be?
I should say that initially it was called an Agro Expo. That is, VDNKh started as an agricultural exhibition, and for 20 years its name included the word agriculture. It was created in 1939, 2 years before the war, and for the first time it was a model of what was called the ideal socialist village. That is, it was a demonstration that the Soviet Union had moved into a new form of economy, which was in agriculture, collective farming. In that sense, of course, the exhibition was an absolute utopia, because the exhibition showed a certain dream, a certain ideal model of existence. Generally, I have to say that VDNKh was a kind of mirror. VDNKh has always depicted what was the most important for the country, the top priority. And when the country changed in one way or another, as was too the case when the Soviet Union collapsed, this was reflected at the exhibition. So, before the war, this dream, this utopia, was mainly related to an abundant life, where there is plenty of food, where there is no hunger. Then, in the late 50s and 60s, the country had other priorities. It was announced that communism would soon be built, and the Soviet people associated the possibility of building communism with the achievements of modern technology and science. In the 1950s, the Soviet Union began to open up to foreigners. That is, after Stalin's death, quite a lot of foreign tourists, businessmen, and foreign visitors in general began to arrive. Among them, first of all, of course, were official delegations. Practically every official delegation that visited Moscow came here to VDNKh. And they spent here, as a rule, the whole day, because there was a schedule for those delegations. They visited 1, 2, 3, 4 pavilions, went to lunch, and so on. On average, about 100,000 foreigners visited the exhibition during the Soviet period. And of course, for the Soviet Union, it was a kind of propaganda showcase to celebrate the best, the most ornate parts.
During its history, VDNKh has had 3 other names. First, it was the All-Union Agricultural Exhibition. In those days, for the USSR, the development of the agricultural industry was a priority, and the site was supposed to demonstrate the success of collectivization and the abundance of food in the Soviet Union. Since the end of the 50s, the goals of the state changed. Instead of wheat fields, the USSR began to conquer space and promote mechanical engineering. That's when the name Exhibition of Achievements of the National Economy was born. In the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was no talk of achievements, so the venue was renamed again. This time, it was the All-Russian Exhibition Centre. Perhaps this area was the most difficult for the exhibition. The rich pavilions of the Soviet republics were transformed into rows of shops. The Exhibition of Achievements turned into a market.
This is due to the reality that, in fact, this private trade was the only area of the economy that was developing at all, and there was a huge need for space and room. Here, they were selling televisions, cars, furniture, and other things. But here is a very important point. Despite the chaos and uncontrolled development, the exhibition area nevertheless remained. It was not divided. It was not built up with modern buildings. It was always open. Muscovites could always come here to do some shopping. So, when this new phase in the life of the exhibition started in 2014, Muscovites preserved this habit. They used to come here to walk and shop, but now they come here to walk and visit museums, attractions, and the like.
Now VDNKh is experiencing a renaissance. In 2013, on the Active Citizen portal, Muscovites voted to return the historic name and appearance of the exhibition. Since then, many pavilions have been restored, returned to their original appearance, and have reopened permanent exhibitions. Today, VDNKh looks a lot as it did in 1954, but the territory grew. It merged with Ostankino Park and the Botanical Gardens. The Moscow's government's priority program to improve public areas and parks has returned to the capital's residents and guests a treasured leisure area.
In general, the grounds of VDNKh are remarkable not only among Moscow sites. It is quite unique because there is no other site in the world with such a set of services and interesting recreational offerings. People come here with different purposes. Of course, they come for a walk, to enjoy the scenery and architecture, but of course, they come to the museum because we have more than a dozen of them, and they are interesting and varied. A lot of people come here for recreation. A large number of people run in the morning, and of course, they come to have fun, to attend mass events in our outdoor areas, and to go inside the pavilions for concerts and entertainment events.
Today, VDNKh is more than just an exhibition and a leisure park. It is a multifunctional area. There are offices, schools, and workshops. In the pavilion of the Russian Soviet Federation Socialist Republic, the multifunctional center, My Documents, was opened, where Muscovites can receive a variety of state services. It is even possible to register a marriage at VDNKh, as a civil registry office is located here. For the comfort of visitors, VDNKh has information services in several languages. Here you will be advised on how to find different objects, buy a ticket, or book an excursion, find the working hours of the pavilions, and even order a cab.
For foreigners, this facility has many areas of interest. First of all, it is a very pleasant area for leisure. It is a very welcoming area. There are beautiful fountains here and very beautiful architectural sites. In general, we regard VDNKh as a sort of museum city, a city of architectural museums. That's why we are very pleased that when foreign tourists come, they compare us with Versailles and other classical destinations in the world. In the period when the country opened for foreign tourists, there were no problems. Tourists came in groups and, in principle, they visited the grounds, bought sightseeing tours, because it was interesting for them to hear of the development of the territory and how it had evolved from 1939 to the present. It has preserved its unique and interesting history. And of course, they go into the pavilions and enter the Cosmos Pavilion and admire our expositions.
The territory of VDNKh is huge, almost 700 hectares. For that reason, it's very convenient to get around this place not only on foot, but also on roller skates, bicycles, and electric scooters. There are dozens of places throughout VDNKh where you can rent an electric scooter. There are about 1,000 of them available for transportation. In addition to scooters, for fans of outdoor activities, there are running and cycling paths, sports fields, and a rope town. Also, the park has its own transport network. There are several free bus routes, one of which is included in the city public transport network. It is impossible to walk around the entire territory of VDNKh in a day, so there are 7 main thematic routes for tourists. For foreigners, excursions are provided in 5 languages. In addition to Russian, they are offered in English, Chinese, Spanish, and French. Signboards are installed around the park with basic information in Russian, English and Chinese. For those who are at VDNKh for the first time, it is recommended to start with a sightseeing tour. To get acquainted with the exhibition, we met with Elena Krikunova, a senior guide tour of the Slavonic Literature Center Slova at one of the landmarks of VDNKh. Liana, hi! Great to meet.
Greetings. Very nice to meet you.
Please tell us about this very interesting statue.
Actually, it's a sculpture called Tractor Driver and Collective Farmer, which has been a symbol of the exhibition since it opened on August 1st, 1939. And now I would like to invite you to take a walk down our central avenue, down to the main pavilion,
Wonderful.
to the monument to Vladimir Lenin. Its height is huge,
Very interesting.
32 meters, or 105 feet. For the sculpture to give off this kind of golden effect, it's covered in these thin pieces of golden enamel. It's glass with metallic foil inside of it.
So it's like a mosaic.
A mosaic, that's right.
The territory of VDNKh is divided into 7 thematic zones where anyone can find something they are interested in. We walk along the main avenue that leads us to the central pavilion of VDNKh. It is the tallest building of the exhibition. The height at the tip of the spire reaches 97 meters or 318 feet. It is just a few meters shorter than the famous Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. What does VDNKh look like today?
Actually, VDNKh is a huge complex now. Here, one could say, is a museum, exhibition, and architectural complex. There are 5 museums, if we're just talking about those belonging to VDNKh. There are also several museums which are located on the territory of the exhibition, such as the Museum of Transport, which you absolutely must visit. There is a garage museum. There's also a flower and gardening exhibition that is opened. Then we have a lot of pavilions which are themselves objects of cultural significance in the open air.
What must you see here?
VDNKh is a necklace of pearls on which almost every object can be strung. Look, we are surrounded by lanterns which are shaped like stalks of wheat. This takes us back to the first theme of the exhibition, when it was agricultural. And you see the restored originals from 1954.
During the restoration, each object, be it a sculpture, fountain or pavilion, was very carefully restored. For example, during the repair of the stone flower fountain, drawings from 1954 and samples of materials that were found in the archives enabled the restoration of the color of the enamel to as close as the original as possible. Of course, the real pearls of VDNKh are its fountains, the ear of wheat, the stone flower, and the beautiful golden women behind me, the fountain of people's friendship. The 16 girls symbolize the regions which were part of the Soviet Union. Interestingly, the actual number of republics in the Soviet Union was 15, yet the number of girls is 16. The additional girl represents the Karelian Finnish Republic, which in 1954 lost that status and became part of the Russian Soviet Federation Socialist Republic.
Well, there are more than 3 fountains at the exhibition, but the main ones are Friendship of Peoples, where we are standing. A little further along the path is Stone Flower, and if you go out in the direction of the cascade of ponds created along the river Kamenka, there's a landscape park area and the Golden Wheat Fountain.
The Golden Wheat is the fountain with the most complicated life. For 30 years, it had been disconnected and deteriorating. In 2016, they decided to restore it. Today, it is finished with enamel and has a powerful water pumping system. The jets reach a height of 25 meters or 82 feet. The northern part of VDNKh, where Golden Wheat is located, is the most peaceful. Here, around the pond, a landscaped park was built where you can relax in silence. And during the walk in the Technograd area, we dropped into the pavilion where the model of Moscow is located. Just imagine there are more than 23,000 buildings in the center of Moscow. In an area of almost 500 square meters, there is a 1/400th size replica of the center of Moscow. Each building has its own real prototype. Even bas reliefs have been recreated. At noon, you can even hear the chimes of the Spasska Tower of the Kremlin. During the day, you can stroll around the territory and without even noticing, you'll get the recommended daily amount of cardio activity and found yourself building up an appetite. For those who are hungry, there are cafes at VDNKh that date back to the 50s, a grocery store, stalls with boiled corn and sweets, as well as several food courts. When you come to VDNKh, you absolutely must try these donuts. They are really tasty. Very tasty. These donuts are made here using an old Soviet recipe. These are the kind of donuts which have been eaten at VDNKh by several generations of Muscovites and guests of the Russian capital. Of course, of particular interest at VDNKh are the national pavilions. They tell the story of each of the Soviet republics that were once a part of the USSR. Here you can learn all about their culture and their traditions. Russia, Karelia, Armenia, Belarus, Azerbaijan. The pavilions of the former Soviet republics are on the list of 49 cultural heritage sites in Russia. Many national pavilions are now overseen by countries that were once republics of the USSR.
This pavilion was originally conceived and still functions in several ways: as a cultural center, a tourist center, a trade center, and also a communication platform, a platform for intellectual meetings. In general, one can say that the pavilion is an Azerbaijani representative in Moscow, in Russia. We try to make sure that both large and not so large events are held in the pavilion. Moreover, when we hold big events, we do not forget that we are in Russia. For example, we held a Novruz event. It is the largest and most celebrated holiday in Azerbaijan. And last time we celebrated Novruz with a Russian twist. According to our script, a Russian girl playing the Russian spring has come to visit the Azerbaijani spring. The whole scenario for children and adults was built to embody communication, collaboration, and a mutual permeation of two cultures, Russian and Azerbaijani. We hold classical concerts, and we also do periodic food tastings in the sales area, because you know that Azerbaijani cuisine is probably one of the richest and most delicious. There are more than 50 varieties of pilaf in Azerbaijan alone.
The pavilion's permanent exposition and temporary exhibitions are open to the public during VDNKh's working hours. Currently, the Azerbaijan Pavilion hosts an exhibition of children's drawings, Worlds of Master Erzia, Baku. It is dedicated to the 145th anniversary of the outstanding sculptor Stepan Erzia, whose life and creative work were connected with Azerbaijan. And the Orangery is preparing for another concert.
I think that the pavilion, as a cultural center, as a presentation center of the deepest, greatest culture that Azerbaijan has, demonstrates to guests, shows to those people who want to learn more about other countries what Azerbaijan is like. Let me show you some more. Here, you sort of immerse yourself into the atmosphere that is present in Azerbaijan, and very many people who come now during the pandemic could not visit Azerbaijan. But when visiting here, they would say with joy, as soon as the borders open, their first stop would be Azerbaijan. And of course, we are very pleased with how it resonates in the hearts of guests, foreigners, when people from other regions come. So, of course, we have a very large target audience. We also have many people here who come to visit and find it all very interesting, from the very youngest children to the elderly.
During the restoration of the pavilion, Azerbaijan managed to preserve the original architecture of the building and restore its traditional decorative elements. At the same time, national artifacts, exhibitions, and events add life to it, introducing visitors to the rich culture of the country and help build an international dialogue between countries. Recently at VDNKh, the restoration of the transport pavilion was completed. It's opened with a new exhibition called Muscovite Dreams. We're going to go and take a look and see just what it is that the residents of the Russian capital are dreaming about. Muscovites and guests of the capital can visit this exhibition all next year. It features 30 rare cars. Some of them were even movie characters, and also more than 300 transportation artifacts. It's a very beautiful exhibition. Why exactly the name Muscovite Dream?
The dream of a Muscovite, if we're talking about a resident of Moscow in the Soviet Union, was to buy such a car. It was hard, but it was possible to have such a car for personal use. That was a dream of people and a dream of the brand. Just a dream for the plant itself, as the plant has unfortunately lost its potential to become a real success. Its plans were perhaps too big.
Why did you decide to put on this kind of exhibition here in this pavilion?
Well, there are several points of interest here. First, this is the transport pavilion at VDNKh. Second is that the museum has a collection of Moskvich cars. It's nearly a complete one. When the plant was liquidated, they transferred the entire collection to our museum. And since it's nearly complete, they decided to play this card, the story of one brand, and that's what the entire exhibition is based on.
To create the exposition, the team worked for more than a year. They conducted historical research, selected cars, purchased some items. Here one can find the Moskvich 422 and the Pinocchio car of 1954, which is a unique specimen with a wooden body. Also the millionth Moskvich 408 of 1967, the GD1 engine, the first Soviet engine created for the country's participation in Formula One, and the personal belongings of the plant's chief designer Andronov, donated by his son. This year, the whole world is celebrating the anniversary of the first human flight into space. 60 years ago, Yuri Gagarin was the first human being to see our planet from a spaceship. On this memorable anniversary, VDNKh is hosting an exhibition in one of its special pavilions with the Cosmos theme. From the outside, the pavilion looks like a hangar, except that it was originally designed not for a spacecraft and not even for aircraft. Here, in 1939, on display were combines, tractors and trucks. Only in 1967, space vehicles began to appear in the pavilion. Dennis, hello, it's a pleasure. We are in this beautiful pavilion, Cosmos. Can you tell us what's on display here?
First, from space, here is the first man-made satellite, because in 1957, it made a real impression on the world community. There are the Vostok series spacecraft, as well as various automated interplanetary stations.
From here, I can see, I think, the Mir space station. Is that right?
That's exactly right. We have a unique exhibit, which is the Mir Orbital Complex. This is a full-scale mock-up of it. People can see the Mir base module, the Quant module, the Quant 2 module, and hopefully COVID-19 will go away so that people can get inside one of the modules and feel like an astronaut.
Interesting. Many of the exhibits in the Space Pavilion are interactive. For example, there are retractable drawers in which you can see authentic documents related to the history of space exploration. There are also game tables for children. For example, one of these boxes contains drawings by the astronaut Alexei Leonov. In the dome area, there is even a flight control game center where you can create your own spacecraft and send it to another planet.
A huge number of foreigners visit the pavilion, which is why we have touch screens where you can get information, including in English. Of course, we have tour guides who speak English, French, and German, so you can even book an individual tour so that the guide can tell you specifically about the things that interest you. If you don't like to talk to people, there's an audio guide at your service, including in English, which will tell you, in less specificity, about our exposition.
Before the pandemic, more than 3,000 tourists visited the Cosmos Pavilion on weekends. Among them were many foreigners. The staff of the pavilion note that tourists from England and India show particular interest in the Cosmos Pavilion. Despite the pandemic, this pavilion remains one of the most visited at VDNKh. You can spend such a rich and interesting day or even weekend at VDNKh, the exhibition of achievements of the national economy. You've been watching Capital Ideas Life. I'm Mike Gibson. See you in the next program. Bye.